She-Hulk debuted in The Savage She-Hulk #1 in 1980. She is Jennifer Walters, a gifted but somewhat reserved lawyer and cousin to Bruce Banner. She gained her powers thanks to a blood transfusion given to her by Bruce. And now that She-Hulk, attorney at law, is bringing her story to the screen, one has to ask the big question: are they going to include all of the weird and wonderful details about this character that have happened over her comics tenure? So let's take a look at them. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 things you probably didn't know about She-Hulk. Number 10. The Winter Hulk. In World War She-Hulk, which happened in Avengers number 46, the larger, more aggressive Hulk allowed herself to be captured by the Russian Winter Guard to see what they had planned against Atlantis. Once in Russia, she was subjected to a mock trial and found guilty. She was then placed into a mind oven to brainwash her, fill her with radiation, and turn her into a weapon. With the Avengers on the way, the procedure was accelerated and, of course, went slightly wrong. Jennifer broke free and decimated both Winter Guard and any Avengers that got in her way. Now, most of the Winter Guard had been killed or severely injured, while the Avengers were only knocked out. The Guard's Red Widow had severed her arm to inform her superiors that the Winter Hulk had been successfully deployed. This Hulk was then sent to confront Namor. However, the Russians had not counted on Jennifer's skill at controlling her forms. The Red Widow had planted a bomb that was intended to destroy 98% of the Atlantean population. Despite the Avengers capturing the Red Widow, she was still able to detonate the bomb. But Jennifer was able to absorb the 68 megaton gamma yield and released it at Avengers Mountain, far away from its intended target in Avengers number 50. As a result, She-Hulk returned to her intelligent, less bulky form. Number 9. Feeling grey. Having been critically injured by Thanos, things didn't look too good for Walters, but then again, this is comics, so of course she resurrected, but she did so to the news that Hawkeye had killed her cousin, albeit at Bruce's request, and had been acquitted of the crime. Leaving superheroics behind again, Jennifer tries to focus on her law career. However, the stress of the ongoing second superhero civil war, instigated by Captain Marvel and Iron Man, caused her to change into a more heavily muscled but simple-minded grey form. Becoming part of a new law firm, Jennifer was assigned the case of Maisie Brune, a recently changed Inhuman recluse whose landlord was threatening to evict her from her apartment. Despite Jen working her case, Maisie grew impatient and created a fear golem that killed her landlord, a few police officers, and tried to kill the She-Hulk. The golem was then destroyed, and Maisie was arrested. And She-Hulk nearly killed a hulked-out man named Oliver if not for the intervention of her friend Patsy Walker. After a confrontation with the leader in She-Hulk number 161, Jen was approached by the self-help guru Florida Mayor, who offered her to help her with her issues. She took a special pill and had a confrontation with Thanos and her own Hulk persona in her subconscious. When she came to, she had destroyed the room, but she was back in her green form once more. Number 8. Jennifer Walters, Bounty Hunter. So Mallory Brooke was the star lawyer at Glknh before Jennifer Walters arrived, and thus she always had a chip on her shoulder for the chaos that She-Hulk had brought into her life. She began setting up circumstances that caused Jen to get disbarred for violating attorney-client privileges. Leaving both her lives as a lawyer and a superhero behind, she began working for Freeman Bonding Incorporated as a bounty hunter. Her partner in this new job was Jacinda, the daughter of the Super Skrull. After successfully capturing the minor armed villain Highlight, Jennifer and Jacinda tracked a bomber named Bran Murphy to Cleveland, where they discovered that he was the host for the Celtic god Bran the Blessed. Bran and demigod and sometimes Avenger Hercules battled throughout the city until Jacinda nearly killed the man to get the Celtic god out of him. Jacinda then revealed to She-Hulk that the Skrulls had invaded Earth. In 2008 Secret Invasion tie-in, the Peter David written X Factor number 34 saw the pair travel to Detroit, Michigan to confront the Skrull that was posing as Longshot. They were at first opposed and then aided by members of X Factor investigations. After freeing humans from a small Skrull ship, they were then attacked by the Super Skrull, who planned to kill his daughter for betraying the Empire. The exposed Longshot nearly fatally injured Jacinda and was left in She-Hulk's care, but thankfully she was later apprehended by Sword. Number 7. Do you take this man, Wolf? Now, Jennifer has had many successful cases while working at Glknh. One of these was aiding Spider-Man in suing the Daily Bugle and its publisher J. Jonah Jameson. Over the course of the case, Jen met Jameson's son, former astronaut and occasional man-wolf John Jameson, and the pair began dating. At the end of the first Civil War, She-Hulk regained the ability ability to change forms again after Doctor Strange removed Wanda's spell on her. John and Jen were so happy that they then eloped to Las Vegas. Gifts started coming in rapidly, but it was all apparently a scheme by Alistair Smythe to ruin Jameson's life and his subsequent happiness. He made him turn back into the Man-Wolf and then was shot with a silver bullet, turning him into the Star God. Eventually, John got control of himself, but told She-Hulk that he would not transform back to human form unless she did as well. During this time, She-Hulk had to defend against a case of sexual harassment and manipulation being brought against former Avenger Star Fox. Eros of Titan was an Eternal who had the ability to stimulate the pleasure centers of people's minds and make them fall in love or feel desire or feel arousal and other emotions. Jennifer learned that Star Fox had used this power on Jen to make her fall for John, and therefore she had the marriage annulled in She-Hulk number 20. Number 6. Glknh. In her 2004 self-titled comic written by Dan Slott and penciled by Juan Bobillo, She-Hulk was at an all-time low after being found guilty of causing plentiful destruction. And into the bar where She-Hulk was failing to get drunk walked Holden Holloway. He hired her to the new superhuman law division of his firm Goodman, Lieber, Kurtzberg and Holloway. The proviso being that he was hiring Jennifer Walters and not the She-Hulk. Jennifer was invited to join the Living Tribunal's Magistrate to arbitrate cases across time and space, and so she travelled to the planet Skarden to free it from the rule of the Champion of the Universe. There she stayed and trained for a week to increase her strength in her She-Hulk form in order to defeat the Elder. When she returned to Earth, she actually had to wear a special suit to regulate her strength. Now, few of the employees at Glknh were as unusual or loyal as Awesome Andy. He was actually the Mad Thinker's awesome android, and when the Mad Thinker made adjustments to his creation to copy more than just powers, Andy copied Thor's nobility and helped the hero capture the Mad Thinker. He then hired a lawyer to prove that he was a victim and not a willing participant, and as he had no money, he took a job at the firm to pay his fee and ending up staying there. Number 5. When She-Hulk broke bone. In the Avengers Red Zone story arc that began in issue number 65, the team had gone to Mount Rushmore to solve the mystery of the Red Mist and found that it was actually a government-created bioweapon. When She-Hulk opened a locked door, she discovered a room full of AIM operatives who opened fire and damaged her protective suit. Her fellow Avenger, Jack of Hearts, got her out of the building, but his powers drew the gamma radiation from her body, transforming her into a human form where she succumbed to the virus. She later transformed into a savage She-Hulk and tore through the team before disappearing. Jen tried to follow Bruce's example and lay low whilst wandering through small-town America. However, her Avengers teammates had been looking for her, and when she was face to face with the Scarlet Witch, the fear and frustration of losing control caused her to turn into an out-of-control version. The entire team was unable to stop her, and she destroyed a large part of Bone, Idaho. Hawkeye and Bruce Banner arrived to try and calm Jennifer down, but they were equally unsuccessful. Clint was able to get She-Hulk out of town and then forced Bruce to transform into the Hulk to make the fight more evenly matched. Finally, it was the arrival of Jack of Hearts who used his powers to finally balance the proper amount of gamma radiation in her body and return her to normality. Number 4. Juggling Two Lives. Now, Jennifer found it easier to focus on just one aspect of her life, either the lawyer or the superhero, but when she tried to juggle the two, it often got her into trouble. She-Hulk had left the Avengers after the fiasco where Dr. Druid and Nebula had mentally taken the team over, but she returned when Steve Rogers also returned and reorganized the team in Avengers number 305. At nearly the same time, Jen was hired to work as a lawyer in the office of District Attorney Blake Tower. Jennifer's work in the DA's office kept her from attending several Avengers missions. She also ended up breaking up with her boyfriend Wyatt Wingfoot not long after getting engaged. Ultimately, Jen found that it was Tower's assistant, Louise Mason, who had actually pushed him to hire the Jade Giantess, as the Golden Age superhero blonde phantom Wheezy wanted to be featured in a comic again before she died of old age. Returning from space in a Flying 59 Dodge after fighting the alien Zemu, She-Hulk found that her superheroics were actually getting in the way of her being a lawyer. During a trial, opposing counsel stated that she influenced the jury in her favor simply by being a hero. Faced with this possibility in future cases, Tower fired Walters, and Mason quit as well, but joined Jennifer in her solo practice. Number 3. A real team player. Now, She-Hulk has been a member of numerous teams over her long history in comics. Jennifer Walters' first and most frequent team affiliation is that of the Avengers, and she joined the premier super team in Avengers number 221 at the request of Janet Van Dyne, aka the Wasp. And Walters began a good-natured but adversarial relationship with veteran Avenger Hawkeye. Clint also coined the name SheHulk as a way to get under her skin. Jen would then leave the team for a variety of reasons, but would always return when called upon. The other major major team where Jennifer made her mark was the Fantastic Four. After the events of the first Secret War, Ben Grimm, the Thing, chose to stay on Battleworld. He personally asked SheHulk to step in as his replacement on the team in Fantastic Four number 265. SheHulk became trapped in the microverse alone and under the thrall of the Psycho Man. She had to rediscover her courage to save the kingdom of Queen Perla. Additionally, SheHulk was a member of the all-female teams A-Force and Lady Liberators. She was also a member of the initiative-based Defenders and a rogue team as well. Jen also became part of the Heroes for Hire whilst in a relationship with Luke Cage, in addition to working briefly for S.H.I.E.L.D. Number 2. She prefers the green life. Now, at first, understandably concerned about what was happening to her, Jennifer soon found that she not only liked but actually preferred to spend most of her time in her altered form. Jen was a kind, empathetic and studious person, and part of her bonding time with the young Bruce was hours spent in the library reading books together. After her change, she became more comfortable in the SheHulk form and found new confidence, assertiveness and a more fun-loving nature. When radiation robbed her of her ability to change back to Jennifer on one occasion, she wasn't even bothered. One of the key changes involved in this is that it lowered or even removed Jennifer's inhibitions. She only had a few relationships and not many sexual partners before the change. After her transformation into SheHulk, she became more invested in relationships. But apparently her air quotes party girl antics got out of hand so much that she was once politely asked to move out of the Avengers mansion. But something that hasn't changed over the years is Walter's skill as a lawyer. She is compassionate and caring and has a history of fighting for the rights of minorities, civil liberties, the mentally ill and the wrongly incarcerated. She is a strong believer in the ideals of law and order, but isn't afraid to go up against a law that is wrong, like changing her opinion on the Superhero Registration Act. And number 1, only occasionally savage. Unlike the Hulk, SheHulk rarely falls into extreme fits of anger that make her air quotes savage, and usually those occasions are only often triggered by outside circumstances. Jennifer always has to keep an eye on her anger or stress levels, but there are a few occasions where she lets go and goes over the edge. One of the first times that this happened was when Scarlet Witch lost control of her powers and caused the decimation of the Avengers. Jennifer lost control as well and became enraged, growing in size and savagery. Here she grabbed the Vision and ripped the Synthoid completely in half. In the sensational SheHulk number 15, Jennifer began to manifest a grey version of the SheHulk. This manifestation only came out at night, had the reasoning of a child, and referred to herself in the third person. This grey Shulky often referred to her human side as puny Jennifer, in a manner similar to that spoken by Banner's Hulk. The most recent example of this was when the Dark Celestials attacked Earth and began to infect their brethren. SheHulk was near the site of the Searchers' landfall, and the Celestial gave the hero an additional dose of gamma radiation. This made her larger, bulkier, and more savage in her hulked-out form. After the villain's defeat, Jennifer began referring to herself as Hulk, spoke in a stilted form of English, and aggressively pursued a sexual relationship with Thor in Jason Aaron and David Marquez's Avengers number 8. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 things you probably didn't know about SheHulk. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter at RetroJ, but the O is a 0. Or we can swing by Instagram, where it's the same handle, RetroJ, but the O is a 0. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that. I'll speak to you soon.